Welcome, welcome everybody to our first Common Cause NC supporter call of 2024. As y'all are coming in, I want to remind you this is the first of this all-important election year, and we're coming to you coincidentally on the first night of early voting for this year's March 5th North Carolina primary. My name is Sailor Jones, and I'm Associate Director here at Common Cause North Carolina. Please let us hear from you in the chat, your name, where you're hailing from tonight, and what you hope to learn this evening as me and all of the Common Cause staff or almost all of the Common Cause staff are here with us tonight, this evening, including our leadership, communications, campaigns, organizing, and other teams will all do what we do best, provide what you need to know, including our work to bring North Carolinians together for this election, reaching them where they are with an organizing team that now spans from Elizabeth City all the way to the Queen City, and the inside the legislature insights and expert on the ground analysis that you've come to love from Common Cause NC, not to mention the best ways to share all of it and do something about it in the days, weeks, and months to come. Now, we've heard from you and supporters across the state that that's exactly what you want. And over the next hour, we'll provide all you need to be successful advocates in the important election to come. In fact, we're in that election right now. So we're going to share what's happened to impact our democracy since the 2023 elections, including things you should know for this year's primary and potentially for the general election as well. We're going to share the very latest, including what we're hearing from voters statewide and how litigation and the short legislative session coming up in April could impact our ability to cast a ballot in elections this fall. We'll also talk about the important work that we're doing to get North Carolina voters ready to vote, plus ways you can get involved with the work of educating those voters and how to advocate for the best 2024 elections possible. We got a lot to share, but over the next hour, we'll be monitoring your questions in the Q&A and in the chat and sharing important ways to connect there as well, including those cute little short links that we like to share that you can access more resources and information. Our experts will be answering your questions all along the way as we go. And we'll also have time for questions, a few at the end of the night as well. So don't worry. You don't need to take notes, my friends. You'll be sent a recording of tonight's affair, other important resources, including links to invaluable community education materials like the ones on this slide, along with next steps. So thanks, Brian, for sharing all those slides tonight. Brian Warner, our communications director, is here forwarding everything ahead, and you can sit back, relax, as we provide the information you'll need to make the biggest difference in voting and elections this year. Speaking about someone who could make a big difference, there's no one who does that better than Common Cause North Carolina's Executive Director, Bob Phillips. So, Bob, please bring the nice folks up to speed on all that's happened since the last time we had a supporter call.
Thank you, Sailor. What a nice introduction, by the way. And I guess, unfortunately, folks, I have to be the bearer of maybe some bad news, not so pleasant when we think about what's been happening since we were last together. But before I begin, let me just also say thank you so much for being on this call. We appreciate you so much for just supporting us. And obviously, if you're being introduced to us for the first time, welcome. Check out commoncausenc.org to find out a little bit more about who we are and what we do. So now, on to kind of what has been happening the past few months that could affect all of our abilities to vote in 2024. We've heard about the current photo voter ID requirement that's in place now, but there's a lot more to know since our last supporters call. For example, in October, and it's a bad memory here, the Republican-led legislature not only passed newly gerrymandered congressional and state legislative districts for 2024, but also two really bad anti-voting legislation bills using their current supermajority to override the vetoes of the Democratic Governor Roy Cooper. Now, these laws could have a big impact on voting access and election administration this year, and we're going to talk more about that impact in a moment. But the law known as Senate Bill 749 could change the makeup of our state and county boards of elections to an even number of Democrats and Republicans. Sounds great on paper, but potentially that leads to deadlock votes on major election decisions, including robust early voting plans. Everybody likes to vote early, or it's the majority the way people vote, and this again could have a really bad impact. Another law known as Senate Bill 747 would end the 3-day grace period for mail-in voting, impacting voters in places susceptible to mail delays beyond their control, expand the pool of people who can challenge a voter's ballot from within the precinct to their entire county, requiring anyone assisting a voter in the polls to fill out a voter assistance log, potentially deterring people from providing help that folks really need, allowing more partisan observers at polling sites, potentially increasing instances of voter intimidation, which was reported in 15 counties in 2022. And finally, place more restrictions on same-day registration that could imperil voters' registrations and ballots cast in 2024. That's a lot, folks. But again, this Bill 747 does, unfortunately, all that. It is worth noting that the passage of these laws immediately triggered litigation against them last fall, including 3 challenges to Senate Bill 747 by Democratic groups and a coalition of civil and voting rights organizations, and a challenge to Senate Bill 749 from Governor Cooper. And it is helping. For example, in December, a bipartisan 3-judge panel temporarily blocked Senate Bill 749, which could have otherwise changed the state and county boards to, again, as we mentioned, that even number of board members ahead of the primary, with injunctions on Senate Bill 747 this year. Speaking of December and late November and early December in the North Carolina General Assembly's newly gerrymandered maps, it also triggered litigation to challenge them, including Common Cause's lawsuit with the North Carolina State Conference of the NAACP. It's called North Carolina NAACP v. Berger, and it's challenging both the North Carolina's 2023 congressional and legislative maps. Our lawsuit joined Pierce v. NCSBE, that's the North Carolina State Board of Elections, which is challenging a single Senate district, and Williams v. Hall, which is challenging 4 congressional districts. In January, there was a 4th lawsuit that was filed to challenge lawmakers' 2024 gerrymanders. That's called Bard v. NCSBE, and that includes various districts in all 3 maps: congressional, state house, and state senate. The court's failure to block the challenge districts in the Pierce case this year likely means current congressional and state gerrymanders will be in place throughout 2024. We'll talk more about the districts in just a minute. Finally, January also brought new voting rules and additions, and these are additions and clarifications from the State Board of Elections, including everything from newly accepted college IDs to a new voter registration form. And as mentioned, litigation yielded short-term victories for voters, including an injunction from a GOP-appointed federal judge to parts of the Republican anti-voter law, again, the aforementioned SB 747, which is blocking the GOP's restrictions for voters using same-day voter registration. Those folks who don't get their requirements verified on time and could otherwise lead to their ballots being tossed, a really bad thing. But at least right now, this ruling it's not a total takedown of this sweeping law, but at least for the primary, it will protect voters who use same-day registration safety net available only during the 17-day early voting period beginning February 15th. And in a bit of breaking news for February, Speaker Moore has signaled just yesterday that he plans to slash early voting, the most popular way North Carolinians of all parties vote, and eliminating key portions of the photo voter ID, requiring important exceptions to provide photo ID. For example, as you can see what Moore told reporters. And we encourage you to take a few minutes tonight to click this link, which is ccnc.me/no-more-cuts. We have a very clever wordsmith here on staff. We'll drop the link in the chat. Ahead of the April 2024 legislative session, it is time, folks, to flood the legislative leaders' email and voicemail boxes to let Speaker Moore know that you want no more cuts to our voting options in 2024. So you can see that a lot has happened since our last call. Common Cause North Carolina has been out front over the same time period working to unite NC and get voters ready. And to share more about that, about this campaign, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague and our campaign's manager, Gino Nuzzolillo. Gino, take it away.
Bob, I've been waiting to hear you say those words all night. Hello, North Carolina. Hello, everybody on this call. It's good to see you. I saw many of you in person. We're now on the Zoom screens, but I promise you it won't be long until, like Sailor Jones says, we'll be hugging necks in person again. So as many of you remember, Common Cause North Carolina traveled the length of the state many times over, almost too many times. The mileage reimbursements almost broke the bank, as Bob reminds me, to help voters like you advocate for more responsive and representative voting maps, bring together thousands of people to address their lawmakers directly on the issues they care most about, and start to build what the agenda of everyday North Carolinians looks like, and ultimately empower us to raise our voices at the ballot, but also go beyond the ballot. And that's what we call the Unite North Carolina movement. Last year's town hall tour in 25 different locations across the state, 26 if you count Raleigh in March, showed us that going into this 2024 election, North Carolinians are more united than divided. I know every politician and their mother says that. I know we say it all the time. It is true. You do 25 events and you hear people testify. We want the same basic things, whether it's healthcare that doesn't break the bank or feels like a quagmire to go through, whether it's public schools, traditional public schools that are fully funded and care for our students and our kids, whether it's more living wages, protections for our immigrant neighbors, protections for our LGBTQ plus neighbors, whatever it is, we want the same basic opportunities to be protected, to feel safe, and have a democracy that works for all of us. Each of these town hall events gave voters a chance to address the lawmakers who were in attendance on all of these issues, to provide the latest feedback on the latest proposals impacting their ability to elect candidates of their choice, capture their voter testimony, and survey voters on the issues that were driving them to the polls. In fact, through what many of you completed, we identified that the 4 key issues that were driving voters to the ballot, from Cullowhee to the coast — we don't do Murphy to Manteo anymore, it's Cullowhee to the coast — they were voting rights, abortion access, threats to democracy, and public school funding. And so a few key takeaways emerged. These in-person town halls gave North Carolinians from all sides of the political spectrum a chance to find common ground. You would not believe, sitting in a room with a Republican county commissioner in Nash and Edgecombe counties and Democratic operatives who worked with the local party, both being pissed that they weren't consulted about a casino deal that we thankfully got killed last year. Both of them, across the political divide, cared about the fact that their voice, their local stake in democracy, was discounted by Senate Leader Berger, and they found a way to unite in these town halls together. And voters are literally starting to vote now for the candidates who are going to give them a reason to vote in future elections, to continue to participate in our democracy. And what we saw in those town halls, too, was a clear indication of what the stakes are in North Carolina, whether it's the safety of our queer and trans siblings, or it's the possibility of one day having a pro-civil rights state Supreme Court that outlaws partisan gerrymandering once and for all. Based off what we learned from those town halls that were focused on legislative accountability, we then embarked on the second phase of our Unite NC campaign, the Unite NC Ready to Vote Community Education Tour. You heard it from Bob. I could barely keep up, and this is what I do every day. A lot of the things have changed in how you vote. You got new districts. You've got to show new things at the polls. You basically got to read a novel to be able to go to the polls. And we decided we needed to go to all the places we went to for town halls before, and new places like a Randolph or an Alexander County, to educate people on the basics of overcoming these anti-voter changes to voting. So to talk a little bit more about getting ready to vote, I would not be happier, Sailor, to turn it over to you, Katrina, and Ann, to talk to all of y'all about the second phase of this tour. Go ahead.
Thank you, Gino. Just like Republican Arnold Schwarzenegger said, I'll be back. And he was indeed. Gino, Ritrina, the entire gang here at Common Cause have hit the road yet again to launch a 100 county statewide in-person community education tour and engagement series to prepare our regions for all of the new voting, election, and district changes that Bob just shared with you now. And as part of each Unite NC Ready to Vote event, our organizers are partnering with state and local leaders, partnering with election officials as special guests, and providing community-specific resources. That's very important, and training to each county's audience. Now, these train the trainer style events are educating North Carolinians and their networks about voter ID requirements, redistricting changes, what voters will face because of Senate Bill 747 or Senate Bill 749, and other ways to get their friends and family ready to vote. So this training series that you're going to hear a little bit more about includes coordinated events with election officials. This is incredibly important. We've lost 40% of our experienced election officials since the last presidential cycle. We need to get to know our local election officials and what they can offer in terms of relationships and trust building with voters like you. We've been to major metros and rural hubs, including dozens of events from Transylvania to Perquimans, with many more trainings in the works in the coming weeks and months. Now, county election directors are special guests here. We've also had Board of Elections members, staff, anyone who's affiliated with the county coming in to present on their recent observations about, for example, the voter ID law and how it was administered during the municipal elections. We've also answered voter questions and concerns. We've even inoculated some voters against mis and disinformation in their communities. We're also helping with recruitment of county election staff, poll workers, and poll monitors in 2024. Many of our counties need staff and staff that look like the voters they serve. And so these events have been good places to make that pitch to community as well. We've also provided opportunities for corresponding campus trains and events. It's not just our communities that need help, friends. Obviously, our students can get involved as well. And as part, we've distributed over 10,000 ready-to-vote educational booklets with all of the information you're seeing in the slides and all the information you need to cast a ballot. If someone would drop this in the chat, we have a list of upcoming educational events in communities near you. They're at ccnc.me/UniteNCEd. That's ccnc.me/UniteNCEd. ED stands for education, and that's what these trainings are all about, providing detailed overviews and implications of the new state legislative and congressional voting maps, for instance. Ann Webb, our policy director, is here. Can you show us all of these maps and tell folks what they're going to get when they learn more about them county by county, Ann?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Ann Webb. I'm the policy director here at Common Cause NC. And I'm going to walk you through the part of our trainings that has to do with the new legislative maps and gerrymandering. At our trainings, we provide a detailed look at each county's congressional and state legislative districts. It's a tailored look at the 2024 voting maps that have been helping to unite NC. For example, in Pasquotank, we've shared how voters should be empowered to vote in their swing congressional district, knowing turnout will decide who represents them in Congress. In Cumberland, we've been illustrating how gerrymandering hurts voters from both sides of the aisle, showing them how packed Democratic districts in Fayetteville mean less representative governments for GOP voters there, but dilute the votes for Democratic voters outside the city limits. And in Alexander County, we showed how whole parties can be shut out of the political process depending on which party is in power. Most importantly, we've been able to show the big picture that voters can easily share with their networks, including that we're facing a new congressional map that is 10-3-1. For example, in 2022, we were represented by proportional maps that reflected the state's partisan breakdowns. We elected representatives to the U.S. House that reflected that 7 Democrats and 7 Republicans, reflected 7 Republicans and 7 Democrats. Dave's redistricting app, or what we call DRA, uses the results from recent prior elections to predict how new maps drawn by lawmakers in 2023 may perform in an actual election. According to that analysis, the 2024 congressional map will result in 10 Republicans and 3 Democrats being elected, with 1 toss-up in the Northeast, which leans slightly Democratic. You can see that on the map here. It's really clear when you look at the colors. Now, we know that proportionality matters and how it illustrates the dangers of redistricting. Proportionality is one measure of how fair a map is. In a proportional map, if 50% of North Carolinians voted for Republicans to represent them in Congress and 50% voted for Democrats, the map's number of leaning Republican or Democratic seats should be about even. This would result in a 7-7 or an 8-6 split amongst North Carolina's congressional delegation, similar to the 2022 map. That map received a 94 out of 100, or a solid A, from the DRA analysis. But we're able to show voters who may not be strangers to gerrymandered districts just how bad the enacted 2024 congressional maps are, getting a 0 out of 100 for proportionality, a failing grade that means it is incredibly disproportionate and will greatly favor the party in power at the expense of all voters. Now, that same failing grade applies to the gerrymandered state, Senate, and House maps. For example, a party needs 30 votes out of 50 in the state Senate to have a supermajority, giving that party the ability to override the governor's veto. According to the analysis, the most likely outcome of the Senate map would be 30 Republicans and 20 Democrats. If the map performs as past data suggests, Republicans would maintain their supermajority in the state Senate. Now, it's important to note that of the 50 voting districts in the Senate, 9 districts don't favor Republicans or Democrats by more than 10 points, and they are deemed swing districts where voter turnout will decide whether the GOP has a supermajority or not. So that's many opportunities there for voter turnout to decide the outcome of the election, despite gerrymandering. Now, in the state house, a party needs 72 votes out of 120 state house members to have a supermajority. Based on past election data, the most likely outcome under this house map would be 71 Republicans and 49 Democrats, leaving Republicans potentially 1 vote shy of maintaining their supermajority in the House. Again, have to note, there are several competitive districts where voter turnout will decide whether the party in power maintains its supermajority. As Bob mentioned, we should assume that the maps drawn in 2023 will be the maps in place for 2024. And I can talk a little bit about this later. But therefore, there's only one way to overcome these gerrymanders, and that is you. So I'm going to pass it over to Rotrina to share how we can do that.
Thanks so much, Ann, and that is absolutely right. Once our Ready to Vote attendees hear about how breaking gerrymanders means breaking voting records, these crowds are more ready, they're more willing and able than ever to learn about new voting rules that help themselves and their networks overcome barriers. And the following is exactly what we share during every 75-minute training that we have. We open by reminding voters that voter ID won't stop me. And of the 11 types of accepted photo IDs that can be used to vote in North Carolina, including the most common ID, a North Carolina driver's license, including options for 65 and plus voters whose IDs have expired since their 65th birthdays, and those whose IDs have expired a year or less. We also share how voters can get free IDs at their local county boards of elections and the growing number of ID options of some government employees and college students. We ally voters' fears who might be concerned that their photos or names don't exactly match by reminding them that exact matches aren't required, and remembering that your photo ID, your photo ID law is simply to verify your identity. So incorrect addresses on your ID are not a barrier to vote. We run through exceptions to the photo voter ID law, including a lack of time or transportation to get an ID, or lost or stolen IDs. For example, did you think your ID was in your wallet, but it's not available to show when you get there? And the process for filling out a proper ID exception form for both in-person and mail-in voters. We provide an overview of what's on the ballot, including important statewide and/or down ballot races not hampered by gerrymandered districts, as well as important election dates and deadlines to make sure you have what you need to vote and that those votes count. We even walk you through what the impacts of Senate Bill 747 and Senate Bill 749 could mean when you go to vote in 2024, whether by mail or if you're going to vote in person. We provide voters with key ways they can get real help if they have questions or experience problems with voting, including the nonpartisan voter hotline, 1-888 Our Vote, and trusted connections to their county boards of elections. Finally, we share important next steps so voters themselves can become the help they want to receive. By taking the lead in training their networks, reaching out to their community members and beyond their networks, and advocating for better elections where they live, which you can access now. We'll drop it in the chat, ccnc.me/action team. And now I will pass it over to Saylor to talk more.
Thank you, Ratrina. We really appreciate it. And we know we ran through those slides really quickly, but that was the point. We just wanted to give you a little taste of what every county is receiving in terms of education when we go there with our Ready to Vote events. Every attendee receives the slides, the resources, a recording of the training, even an FAQ, a frequently asked questions document answered by legal experts and compiled from their own questions, audience questions, and all the preceding questions from every other county. Because if you have a question in Onslow County, you likely have that same question in Transylvania County. So we are providing all of that information to every single person who attends the training, including the slides you see here. I've also dropped that information into the chat. Did you not get a chance to read all the slides because we were running through them quickly, but you want to know more? You have access to the FAQ, the recording, the booklet that people follow along with and fill out. All of it is available there in the chat. You can check it out at your leisure. All of which we will put in the chat again. I know a lot of questions are coming in. They're all answered by the Community Ed Tour, and we want to make sure you have all the resources you need to make sure that you're ready to vote. Ratrina, can you tell us more about what we're hearing from people in their communities when they get this information? I know a lot of people, when Ann is talking about the maps, they're really upset. They feel gerrymandered. They feel boxed in. But we know we've been out in the community quite a bit, and we know a little bit different story coming from voters all across the state. Can you share more?
Oh, yes. This education is truly working to empower voters. Many of you have asked over the past several months, don't voters you talk to feel disheartened by all these barriers to fair elections in 2024? And based on what our organizing team is hearing from these trainings, the answer is no. In fact, the feedback to date has been 100% positive from Democrats and Republicans alike. But you don't have to take my word for it. Our organizing team is proud to share how voters are responding to having this information in easy to understand format to share with your friends, your family, and beyond. And Destiny, what are you hearing?
Yes, thank you, Ratrina. Good evening. My name is Destiny Jordan, and I'm the Northeastern organizer for Common Cause NC. We have held multiple Unite NC Ready to Vote trainings in the Northeast so far, including ones this week, which were in Pasquotank County and Pacoima County. For example, Virginia from Pasquotank County told us the training was a good way to learn more about new voting laws and help educate my community. This was similar to what we heard from attendees in Mickey in Onslow County, who told us the training was very informative with phenomenal speakers and that the easy-to-read pamphlets motivated me to go out and share this information with my community. As you can see from the image, the Onslow trainings grade together our Unite NC Ready to Vote partnership between Common Cause, NCA Philip Randolph Institute, the NAACP, and special guests like the Board of Elections Director, Jason Dedman. If you would like a training in Northeast North Carolina County in the upcoming weeks or months, please email me at djordan@commoncause.org. That's djordan@commoncause.org, and I can help you out with anything, and I will drop my email in the chat now. And Lisette, what are you hearing in your area?
Thanks, Destiny. Hey, everyone. I'm Lisette Rodriguez. I'm the Sandhills organizer with Common Cause. Last week, we did an event here in Cumberland County, a community ed event, and we had attendees such as Brandon from Fayetteville, who told us that this was a great event. It was very informative, and it brought us together to explain complex voting laws in plain language. In fact, Fayetteville and Hope Mills residents who attended have since ordered 1,500 ready-to-vote booklets to distribute in their churches, local groups, and when doing door-to-door canvassing to infrequent voters about the election. So if you would like to do a training in your Sandhills County in the upcoming weeks or months, please email me at lisette@commoncause.org and I can help you out. And I'm going to also drop my email in the chat now too. And I know we're getting some feedback from the Charlotte area as well. Cheyenne?
Yes, that is right, Lisette. My name is Cheyenne Caldwell. I'm the newest member of the organizing team and your Charlotte area organizer for Common Cause North Carolina. So far, we had a handful of ready-to-vote trainings in my region. All the great feedback, including Tanya from Charlotte, who told us that this event was the most informative training I have attended on North Carolina, Mecklenburg County voter requirements and process. That's just amazing to hear. We were proud to partner with election officials like Mecklenburg County Election Director Michael Dickerson, who provided trusted information, including a question and answer period for over an hour. These partnerships with election officials, directors, staff, and board members at every event so far have also helped build important relationships and mutual respect between communities and those administrating our elections. Those connections are what Unite NC is all about. That's right, Gino?
Cheyenne, you couldn't be more right. As Carol in Wilmington said to us, that she left with hope that change can actually happen in North Carolina. And there are reasons to hope. Your Common Cause team has got a plan for the year about what hope looks like to us and for all of you. We'll get to that soon. I'm just teasing you with it now, so you'll stay on the call for the rest of the hour. But in the meantime, we need to talk about what's happening in the courts with our favorite lawyer, Ann Webb.
Hey again, folks. One place that you might have seen my face is on our weekly 5 Things to Know videos. These are posted to social media, particularly regularly during the legislative session. And they share what to expect weekly on the ever-changing policy front in North Carolina. And we also share updates on the latest litigation, and that's what I wanted to share with you right now. Remember, between now and the general election, as Bob previewed, there is pending litigation that could change some key provisions of our elections laws. For example, a court decision that has thus far prevented SB 749 from being implemented and kept our odd-numbered elections boards in place could be reversed, which would allow that law to undermine some of our basic elections functions. Similarly, court action could change parts of SB 747 that make it harder to register and vote the same day. For the primary election, there are new rules in effect that could require some ballots cast by voters who registered the same day to be removed from the count if a mail verification card is returned to the county board. But the same new rules required by the court election boards must provide voters with an opportunity to fix the problem. We will provide updates if there are further changes before the general election. Finally, several cases challenging the new gerrymandered legislative maps are moving through the courts, as Bob shared. Our lawsuit with the North Carolina NAACP and several amazing individual plaintiffs is moving forward, but as mentioned, none of these lawsuits is going to mean new or better maps for the 2024 election. Our lawsuit is targeted at trying to gain wins for the 2026 cycle. All of these potential changes make staying abreast of the latest so important, and why we'll be hosting community education events throughout the election cycle to get more folks ready. Learn more at that link, ccnc.me/UniteNCEd. But litigation is not the only thing Common Cause is monitoring. Isn't that right, Jane Pinsky?
I'm Jane Pinsky, leading legislative affairs for Common Cause North Carolina, and I have to agree with what Ann said. Remember, the North Carolina General Assembly comes back for its short session in April of this year, and we'll be monitoring the possibility of even more legislation to change the way we will vote in the rest of 2024. As Bob mentioned earlier, House Speaker Moore announced earlier this week that he'd like to cut early voting from 17 days to a week and to tighten exceptions to voter ID. But we'll be watching for some other changes as well. They include changes to the way you can do same-day voter registration. We expect they're going to make it harder. Changes to what voters will experience when they advocate for better elections or go to the polls to cast a ballot. And potential constitutional amendments, changes to student voter IDs. You can keep up with the changes during legislative session by watching Ann and our 5 Things to Know videos every week. And as Bob mentioned earlier, we want to load legislative leaders' emails and voicemails to let Speaker know more that you want no more cuts to our voting options in 2024. Start by sharing this message with legislative leadership right now at ccnc.me/no-more-cuts. That's ccnc.me, no more, MORE, cuts. And don't forget that our Ready to Vote training, we also provide ways to help local voter election officials overcome the challenges of these potentially new changes to the law and help voters overcome the potential pitfalls of voting under new rules this year. So, what are you waiting for? Time to get active.
Thank you, Jane. This commitment to working together to educate voters about their rights to get voters ready to vote together in the primary and the general has never been more important. And you can help right now, right, Rotrina?
That is right, Ann. Following Ann's lead, here are 5 things to know about how you can get involved with us in 2024 and help North Carolina break voting records this year. 1, you can take our pledge to vote and take it with you to your networks on social, and at events in the community. It's not just about voting, it's about making a plan to vote and encouraging others to do the same. Remember, new or infrequent voters are much more likely to cast the ballot if they can visualize voting, and we can demystify the process to get there. So we'll be dropping that in the chat. Our Pledge to Vote link will be dropped in the chat for you to sign on to our Pledge to Vote. Also, we have please order resources. In addition to our Ready to Vote training materials, we're helping voters statewide get ready with our Ready to Vote booklets, available in limited quantities for distribution. And also, if you have an event or a canvas coming up, make sure you order yours today. We have given out, I know, over 5,000 booklets thus far. We'll also, I'll be dropping that in the chat as well. And also participate in voter education. Invite us to present to the public in your county, help us find a spot, and we'll be there with bells on the walk to walk your community through all there is to know about voting in 2024 and help you find an audience for your voter engagement and mobilization work where you live. You can definitely learn more about these events at ccnc.me/UniteNCEd, or you can email me. And I'll be there to bring it to your community along with our great organizers across the state. You can email me. I'll put my information, my email in the chat, rcampbell@commoncause.org. And then I'm going to pass it right on over to Gino to tell you more, to talk more about what you can do. All right, Gino.
More. Ratrina Campbell, how do you like it? How do you like it? Whereas number 4, you can get involved with elections advocacy. This is where I cut my teeth when I started in this work. You can advocate for better elections where you live. We need monitors who can go to county board of elections meetings to be part of that civic process, to build relationships with election officials, and to let us know if there's potentially concerns. Maybe there's not enough poll workers, or the county board is having trouble recruiting poll workers. You let us know, that lets the whole state know, and we can make sure that we support our counties in running elections where everybody's got a chance to cast a vote. You can save your seat for an upcoming training to make sure that all the votes count in the primary and the general, and to be an elections advocate. By joining a training that we are doing with the Southern Coalition for Social Justice and Democracy, North Carolina. It's happening at February 28th at ccnc.me/CBOE advocacy. You'll see that link in the chat. And with number 5, I just want to say, as a personal privilege, Sailor, that it can feel in 2024 that there have not in a long time been so many threats that we face all at one time. And that means there has never been a better opportunity and more opportunity to organize with thousands, tens of thousands of North Carolinians who share our values, and we just need to reach them. There's never been a greater opportunity for it. So what we are going to ask you to do is to go beyond your networks to engage voters with us. We're going to need your help to reach voters, especially infrequent voters, who we like to call high opportunity voters, who maybe have never had their door knocked on before. And we're going to go to them with a message, a nonpartisan message that doesn't care about parties, that just cares about what they care about, and helping them make a plan for what's on the ballot and how to vote in the general election this year. We want to, Ratrina's going to hate me for saying this, but we want to hit 15,000 doors in Mecklenburg County. We want to hit 10,000 doors in Cumberland County. We want to hit 5,000 doors in Pasquotank County. We're going to need you to help knock those doors with us. We're going to put links in the chat for where you can start to sign up to let us know. As soon as summer hits, there's no better time in North Carolina to start walking through neighborhoods than when you got that hot Carolina sun beating down on you. We are going to start in the summer, and we are going to reach as many voters as we can in those 3 key counties and beyond. But beyond that, you'll hear more from us soon. We've got big plans to talk to some of the people who came to our town halls and to tell a better story about North Carolina, about what people care about and what got them involved in politics in the first place, beyond a soundbite for candidates or electoral cycles. You'll hear more soon about our Unite North Carolina Stories project. And I'll tease even now, even if Bob and Sailor would hate me doing it, that we've got 2 pretty big energizing voter events planned for late September and early October. We're getting the pieces together now, but we're excited to combine music and arts and culture with civic engagement. You'll hear more about those plans soon, but they're going to be right with the voters who we need to reach most, those who are new to North Carolina, those who have young families or young professionals, everybody that we're going to need to turn out who may not have turned out before. So lots planned this year, and trust me, we're going to need to spend a lot of time with you this year to make it happen. So with that, Ratrina, Bob, Sailor, Brian, whoever else, close us out. Give us a good word. Let's take some questions. Ratrina, take it away.
After that, I just want to see a raise of hands in the chat. You know, if you've been inspired to get folks out and ready to vote. So we just need a show of hands, and we're gonna need you. Everything that Gino just said, I think he said it all, and you can see we're gonna need your help, and we're gonna have to work together to get folks ready to vote. And so now I am going to pass it to Bob, who will tell us what the big 6th thing people need to know is. So Bob, take it away.
Absolutely, Ratrina. Thank you so much. And of course, you can imagine, folks, what is coming next. And it's really how we are able to do our work. It's thanks to, your great support. We want to get folks, as Gino and everybody on this call has been saying, ready to vote. and get them educated and get them engaged. So we need your time. As you've heard, there's lots of opportunities for you to donate some of your time. We need your energy. And we also need your investment. And I know many of you on this call have been very generous with us over the years, and we so much appreciate it. I can say this, having been here for the last 22 years, Common Cause North Carolina has never been stronger. We've never had greater capacity. And to Gino's point, when we face these unprecedented challenges, we're ready. We're going to do our best and do our all, but we also do it with your help. So if you're aligned with our work, and to get voters ready to vote and protect those voters once cast, please support us today for that work ahead, the work now and the work ahead. You can find a way to make that contribution at ccnc.me/donate. So, Sailor, that's my pitch to the good folks on this call, and turn it over to you for Q&A if we have some time, and then closing remarks.
Thank you, Bob. I'm just typing into the chat, friends. If you want to invest in the cause, do what Bob says. I do. Go to ccnc.me/donate and invest in the cause today. We can't make it to all 100 counties without you. I can't even speak without you. Please, please, please donate today. It's going to be great. And Rosemary McGee had one of the most important questions of the night. Will we send out the links to all that we've shared tonight? Of course we will. Every single link you see, the County Boards of Election training coming up on February 28th. The way to get in touch with Retrina, we're going to send you 3 times her email. We're going to send you a way to order resources, to request an event in the county where you live so we can educate voters there and reach out to your county election officials. Everything you see here is either available to you right now at ccnc.me/UniteNCTools, including the slides, resources, and FAQ, or we'll come to you via email later on, including a recording of everything you saw tonight. Now, in unprecedented move. I bet you've never been on a Zoom call where you got to leave early, but this is that Zoom call for you tonight. We want to get you to supper quickly, but we want to share a few of the questions that we saw. And Ann, you provided the answer to this, but we have seen at every single county the importance of the voter lookup. The voter lookup can tell you, 1, whether you're registered to vote where you live. 2, it can get you a sample ballot. 3, it can share your precinct. It's an incredibly important tool. And can you tell us a little bit about the voter lookup? And we'll drop it again in the chat, but where can voters go to find all of that information?
Yeah, our State Board of Elections has a really excellent website, and they have a great tool. Not every state has this, where you can easily look up your voter registration, and frankly, other folks' registrations as well. And you can double check that your registration is current. You can also see where your precinct is if you're going to vote on election day. You can learn more about early voting hours, and you can get a copy of your ballot. So especially during the primaries, the ballots can get a little complicated depending on which ballot you're going to pick. They have all of the potential ballots that you could vote there for you. And they also during the general will have the exact ballot that you should expect to see, so you can plan ahead. So you can use that voter lookup tool. I also want to just share also that I think someone from the League of Women Voters was sharing Vote 411. And I just want to say that we love that tool too. It's very user friendly, and strongly encourage folks to use that great resource from the League of Women Voters.
Yeah, and Linda was in the chat sharing Vote 411. I'm going to do so again. I want to emphasize that the League of Women Voters have been some of our most important partners on community education. We were just with the League in Catawba Valley, hosting events in Alexander County. We were with the League in the Northeast, hosting events in Pasquotank and Perquimans. Great friends to us, as is vote411.org. And thank you for dropping that and other information in the chat. We also got some questions about the maps. When you go to those resources in the maps, our map man, Tyler Day, he's not with us tonight. He's out presenting about the maps and absentee voting where he lives in Guilford. He has produced individual maps for all of the counties where we have traveled for the community education events. I'm going to drop that link in the chat, but it's with our toolkit. So if you see ccnc.me/UniteNC you can get the maps for your county if we've already been there. If we haven't already been there, you get to come in person and see all of your maps in detail. We'll break down what districts you're in the new congressional maps, the state legislative maps, including NC House and NC Senate, and show how they've changed since 2022, when the Supreme Court came down with a new ruling on April 28th, 2023. It's tattooed right there on my arm when partisan gerrymandering became constitutional again in North Carolina and new maps were drawn. We want to give you the details of that, not only your district changes, but also your voting and election changes that could impact the ballot and your ability to access it in 2024. Please come to a training near you. We've got time for one more question, and I see a few more about the voter lookup tool. I see a few about districts. I'm also seeing something from Mitzi Turner in here, one of our great friends and partners out in Guilford County. Mitzi said she was at a truck stop the other day passing out our booklets. So, Ratrina, what's the best way that folks can get a booklet? We'll close it out with that information. But while you're talking, I'm going to drop a link in the chat to help folks access our form.
Yes, we actually have a quick link that Sailor's going to drop in the chat, because we have a form that you can fill out, and fill that form out for our Ready to Vote booklets, and we'll get them out to you. We'll get it in the chat in a few minutes.
All right. I'm putting that short link in there. That's United NC Resource. Our own Brian Warner made that short link for us. It's a great little handy dandy thing. You can fill it out. Order quantities that you can share. We have people pass them out in faith communities, putting them in their church bulletins. We have people showing the slides at their community events. We even have people passing out information at the Tupperware party. If you're old enough, you know, friends. All right. So with that, I want to just say, if there are no other questions, or you forgot and you want to think of something later to ask, we are absolutely going to provide an FAQ to you with answers to all the questions that have been asked in the comments tonight. And if you've got questions, you can always attend an event. Obviously, we've got community ed events coming to 80 more counties over the next several months. But thank you again for all of your questions tonight and for taking the time to learn more tonight to get other people in your networks, friends and family, ready to vote. We'll be sure to add many of the questions that you asked to our community ed training as well. It won't just be in the FAQ, it'll be in the slides, because if you want to know it, other people do too. And we're going to send you all the links. Rosemary, don't you worry. You're going to have every single short link you can manage in an email coming to you in the coming days, with a recording of this as well. With that, I want to thank everybody who joined us. I want to get you out early. We'll be the first group ever to do so. And really appreciate the staff being here tonight, providing all this important information. Please, everyone, stay safe, be well, and don't forget, use early voting. It starts today. In your county, use any early voting site in your county to make your voice heard, and pick the finalist for the 2024 presidential election. Thank you for joining the cause tonight, and have a great night.